Okay, do that. Sounds good. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to my Sunday Reflections. I'm Elsa Marie De Silva, founder and CEO of Red Dot Foundation. And as you know, I've been doing first daily reflections and then Sunday reflections during COVID-19. I mean, it's only a month since the lockdown lifted, but I'm still self-isolating as much as I can because the numbers are increasing and I don't really want to put myself at risk. So as you know, Sunday Reflections is a chat where I invite one of the amazing people in my network, from my vast network, to come and share their thoughts with us, how they're coping, how they're feeling, what are they doing, what's making them happy, etc. So today with me, I have Soma Maitra. She is with Reliance Retail. Hi, Soma, how are you?
Hi, Elsa. Very good. Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me to your show.
So how's the lockdown been for you?
Lockdown has been very interesting. I think, like most of us, we've gone through all these phases. You know, when the lockdown began, I remember I was at work and we decided that, we're going to work from home for a few days. And I think most of us, it was like maybe a week, a couple of weeks or something like that. So we grabbed a few things and we knew, we're going to work out of home for the next few days. So here we are, we're still working out of home. So I think it began sometime end March when we started working from home. Yeah, the lockdown was officially, I think, 24th, right? 24th March.
Yes.
Yeah, in Bombay. Yeah.
Yes.
And from then to now, so I think I've gone through various phases of not knowing what to do with the extra time that you had in hand. You didn't have to travel anymore. So I've gone through all of these phases, but at this moment, I think I'm glad. I kind of I'm happy with the kind of stuff we managed to do as a family. On my own and by myself. So I think I'm happy. And I'm hoping to get back to normal life, whatever the new normal will be, as soon as possible. I'm dying to go grab a coffee at a coffee shop or get a drink, with my friends. I'm dying to do normal stuff. So that's how it's been. But it's been amazing. I can say, one can get used to this, which is not a good idea, but one could.
Yeah. And is it a bad thing to get used to this?
It depends on what do you want personally. If I have to get used to it, I have to figure an equilibrium of how work will continue. And work will continue at a level, which kind of excites you. But on the other side, I would want other things to open up so that the rest of your life is normal. I can't get used to the rest of the isolation. So that is something which, I'm much looking forward to, things opening up.
So I remember a couple of weeks ago, Supreet and I were invited to a friend's house in Lower Parel, and it was literally the first time I was seeing Supreet, though she lives down the road from me, literally after 6 months. And we took an Uber, and for the first 45 minutes, she was completely anxious. So I suppose there are people who, this unlock mode is also going to make them feel very anxious. And there's going to be a transition into, or like re-entry, the Americans call it re-entry into normal life. But, I wanted to ask you, since, you're with Reliance Retail and you oversee a large part of the operations, on Tuesday, I'm having this session for the US consulate. I'm hosting a session on best practices on work from home, and we have some corporates invited to share their experiences. But what have y'all done? What are some of those best practices that y'all have implemented? If you can share with us.
Sure. So I think our vertical in Reliance, I work with the value format, which is the grocery business in Reliance. So most importantly, we were open throughout. I think our teams were on overdrive because we're in the grocery retail space, which is essential services. So we were open, the entire period of the lockdown. For most of our functions, a function like mine, where I handle innovation, so I'm not like, on the field in operations, our operations teams, our back-end teams, our supply chain teams, I mean, they did tremendous amount of work. It's crazy the amount of work that they did. And there are such beautiful stories of how we saw so many new leaders in the front line, I mean, people fighting with cops to just get to work because they felt they need to keep their stores open. So it was beautiful. And I think as an organization, there was so much done. There was, I mean, all kinds of efforts were made, the hygiene was maintained, everything was maintained. I think so. Overall, we were checked, on an online platform for our COVID symptoms every day. We still are. Our families are checked every day. So there's a track of, what is happening. We've been on calls, on, breakfast parties with our teams almost every week or something like that on Teams or Zoom or one of those platforms. And we figured different ways of connecting with each other. So, and our HR teams also went on an overdrive. They did loads of things too. They did retail Sitara. They did lots of stuff. So it is good. I think overall, it didn't feel so disconnected. Of course, I miss walking down to a colleague's, office to just have a coffee or chat up and, have that evening snack with a colleague. But other than that, it's been very, very connected.
When you say your symptoms are checked online, is it through the app?
It's through it. Yeah, so it has various questions. It's also connected to your Arogya Setu app. So it talks about, have you traveled in the past few days? There's some mandatory questions. Where do you live? So you're geo-mapped. So, you know where you live. Are there any, in your proximity, are there people who are suffering or not? So they tell you whether you're in the safe zone or not in the safe zone and things like that. So that's how that is done.
And, initially during the COVID lockdown, like around April, May, there were a lot of people, walking back to their villages, etc. And a lot of corporates, stepped up to provide food. But since you're in the grocery business, we also saw some of those farmers who were disposing of their crops. Did that, from your supply chain, did that happen, or did you all kind of address that? Because I couldn't make out where it was happening and who was affected, where you saw entire truckloads of like tomatoes being, or cauliflower fields being burnt and, destroyed and stuff like that.
Really? No, not for us. I think our, we were scouting for supplies. I think our stores were full of products, so I'm not, for us, I don't think that affected. And, we also have a huge network of farmers who Reliance works with. So all that was kind of very peacefully taken care of.
And what's Retail Sitara?
Retail Sitara is, it's a talent contest where people, can come and sing and dance and show their talent and, win some of these. This typically happens offline, but this time it happened online. So quite a few of my colleagues tried their skills out. I don't have any such skill to talk about, so I could not do it. Yeah.
So at an individual level, what have you been doing? Like a lot of people have been posting baking and painting and all kinds of stuff. So what's your hidden talent, or what did you reconnect with for yourself during this time?
Oh, I cooked like a maniac. So I always enjoyed cooking. And if you, follow my Instagram post or something, I think people are now bored with all the kind of cooking that I was doing, but it just felt good. You needed to spend those, 2.5, 3, 4 hours that you had extra on you because you're not traveling anymore to work, and you have that time. You don't know what to do with it. We are all a bunch of foodies at home, so I cooked everything and anything possible, and I learned. I think I enrolled for a masterclass. I enrolled for Yes Chef. I enrolled for everything. I learned things which I wanted to. It's not as good as a offline learning, but I did that, and I made guinea pigs out of my family and maybe some friends as well. So I did a lot of cooking. I'm very fond of decor as such as well. So I picked up a few courses on architecture and interior design. So I did a few of those. I think these are the two. There's another one which I had absolutely no clue about. So I started, doing some stock trading. So I had absolutely no clue about it, but just got into it, and it was interesting. So it was fun. So that's another new thing that I learned. And other than that, yeah, I was just telling you, before we began that I needed to get onto an automatic car and drive. I did that. So that's another thing which I did. So overall, I think I did the maximum time that I spent was on cooking. So I tried to cook things which I always had a mental block towards, which I felt I couldn't do traditional Bengali food, so I kind of learned some of that. I tried my hands in some of that, made some mistakes, baked a lot of bread. I think all of us were doing all of this. It's just that I think I just went on an overdrive.
But it's nice, isn't it? Because these are things that these are everyday things, but yet at the same time, when we have to go out and work, we don't really have the time or the luxury to do it. Yeah. So it's a novelty, and it's something to kind of connect the family over as well, right?
Sure. I mean, all my life, ever since I graduated, I've never seen a period where we've been at home more than even like 7 days. Even when you take leave, it's usually you're going on a holiday, or you're just taken a couple of days to sort something out at home or something like that. You're just never home. I think this was the first time we were at home for so long. I mean, of course, you had your work day and everything, but your travel time was cut out. You had your weekends to yourself. You didn't have a place to go. You didn't have friends who would come over. And we're all social people. I mean, I am, right? I'm not used to being at home. I'm someone who would even step out on a Saturday or a Sunday. So it was initially crazy. I would luckily, because I'm in essential services, I could even step out and, drive to our store and just hang around. Not that I could help too much, because our frontline teams were doing a really good job. But it was just nice to, see people with your mask and gloves and everything. But it was just nice to be able to step out, to be able to just drive on the road and, not be stopped. So, I mean, it was good for me, but I think for the rest, I don't know how crazy it would have been. How was it for you?
So for me, for the last 3 years, I've been constantly on the road. Actually, for more than that, for more than 5 years now, I've been constantly on the road. And I haven't spent more than 2 weeks at a time in Mumbai in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So for me, in the beginning, it was, and I've been at home since 8th of March. 7th of March was our last event. And we were anyway a company, an organization that works from home. So I cancelled proactively all our trainings, even before the lockdown was announced, because in February, I went to Germany, I went to Abu Dhabi and France. And I noticed that this coronavirus was picking up steam, and the restrictions were already starting in many of these places. So when I remember I was in Delhi for an innovation lab on the 5th of March, and that was the first time it was actually spoken about in Parliament, and it made news. And then I said, okay, now it's going to, pick up steam. And on 7th of March, we had this mentoring walk that we normally do around Women's Day, where we match senior women with girls from underprivileged communities of Prerna, Save the Children, and others. And one corporate pulled out because they had a US headquarters. But the British Deputy High Commission had a representative, the first political secretary who was coming, and I called her up and I asked her, are you pulling out? And she said, and I think the Canadian Consul General also pulled out because they had already started to get directives not to attend public functions.
Yes,
So I called up Beth at the British Deputy High Commission, and she says, no, I'm coming. So then I took a call and I said, let's go ahead and do it, because a lot of work had gone into it. We had about 30 pairs, 30 pairs of mentor-mentees, and no other corporate pulled out. So that corporate that pulled out had 10 or 12 mentors, but I have such a large network. I called up all these women and said, we'll show up.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful function. And after that, we canceled everything else, because our teams go into communities in low income communities for trainings and stuff. And then so what we did in March was work on the mental health of our employees, and then slowly train them on online, how to use online tools for training. And then middle of April onwards, we started opening it up to our interns, volunteers, and then in May we opened up to the larger public. So we kind of prepared and scaled up in that sense. But personally, I spent only 1 week relaxing and then cleaning my room, because I said, this is going to be the long haul. If it's a mess, I can't function out of this. So cleaned up all the cupboards and everything. And that's it. I mean, I find it fine, because I have a routine. My exercise is online, but last week, to be honest, it was a little hard, because suddenly I realized everything from morning till night is online. My exercise, my socializing, my work, my entertainment, everything.
Just that's too much.
I had to take a break.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So how do you keep your spirits up when you kind of feel that dip?
So I think some of those dips happened initially, and now I am in a very good space. So I think, as you said, we needed to find balance. We had too much time to think. We needed to figure out how to get the best out of this. Yeah, we knew this was here to stay, right? By mid of April, we knew this is going to be a long haul. So, and we're not, getting back to normal for a while. So it was important to, do things. So I think my daughter is in 12th grade. She'll leave in another year. So this was a good time to connect with her, spend some time with her. So that's been a constant fun factor. We do silly stuff when we want to, so that just to keep our spirits high, watch rom-coms. We learned how to make caramel popcorn at home, because you can't go to. Yes, she learned. So we know how to make cheese and caramel popcorn at home. So watch movies, have a wine. So few things which I started doing. Everything that you love about going out, and things like that. Nice crockery, nice cutlery, nice tableware. Use all of it. Pull everything out. You just want to sit and have a nice dinner. Just lay the table well. Drink a glass of wine. Pull out a nice glass of wine. You're feeling more. Yeah. Just enjoy yourself. So I've been doing that quite a bit. So at times my friends, think I'm going crazy. But it's fun. I'm just happy that we can do things like this and keep ourselves happy. As I said, I've been trying to pick up a lot of courses online. Again, too much of online becomes a little tough. So a lot of phone conversations. So I have a couple of people I mentor. Spending more time with them. Then I found myself a couple of mentors. Just call them up and said, I'd like you to help me with a few things, whatever I wanted to learn. So I've been trying to do a lot of things, and I think I have enough on my plate. And when you're feeling really kind of a little low, just go for a walk, do a 10-kilometer walk, push yourself, get all your stress out, come back, listen to music. Do stuff like that. Watch a lot of Netflix and all the other OTT that is available. So that's been what I've been doing. Not being too bad.
Yeah. Let's talk about mentoring. We do a lot of mentoring, and I believe mentoring. So since I work on gender equality, I do believe mentoring is critical and essential to help the next generation of young women find their feet and maybe accelerate their progress as well. Right. So how important is mentoring for you? Like you said, you already have mentors and you found yourself mentees. So why do you think it's important? What are the benefits in your opinion, so that other people can also understand your perspective? And is it being done enough in corporates?
I think, it is not done in a structured manner. It is, there are these few people who want to do it because they want to do it. So that is how it kind of comes about. Having said that, the need for having some good mentors is something I learned very early in life. Early on in our careers, there were some good bosses, there were some not so great bosses, but leave alone bosses. Your mentor doesn't have to be your boss all the time. It could be anyone, preferably not your boss. It was so nice to have people you could have as sounding boards, who looked at you from a third person perspective, who kept on telling you don't take yourself too seriously. I think I've always gained from people who could do that to me, and I was lucky I had a few people who I could reach out to whenever I needed to. I used to work for a company called Tupperware at one point in time, and we had these compulsory mentoring sessions where you had to have some people you would mentor, you would decide, and it would be plugged into your plan. And somebody would mentor you. So I think that's how it started. They trained us to do that as well early on, and then it became a habit. I would, find some of these women. Usually, I've had women I mentor, but nothing against men. But it's just that. I resonate better with women, having lived that life, having lived, and I enjoy mentoring women who are, who've just had who've had a kid, who has a 5-6 year old kid, and they're in the brink of, should I get out of my career? Because, I'm a smart woman. I've done well thus far, but, my child needs me and things like that. I've gone through that phase. I think that is the most critical time where someone has to stop and tell you, boss, it'll all work out. The child will turn out fine. You don't need to stop. You just need to do X, Y, Z. These are few things which you need to look at, or you need to figure what you want out of your life. So I think that is the period, that's the phase which I love the most, because we have so many women getting out of workforce, so many very smart women getting out of workforce. So I'm very, very passionate that we should be able to hold back some of these women, because I have also seen amongst my friends and colleagues who are very, very bright, because of whatever reasons, lack of extended families or whatever, they got out of workforce. And when the child did not need the parent that much, it was very difficult for them to get back. And even if they did, they had all their peers, doing something else, and they were not very keen to, start off again. In India, that's a problem. You can't, start off from where you left. You have to step back a few steps, which you don't want to do. So that's an area I'm very, very passionate about. So I think, that's something which I do constantly. And another bunch of people I absolutely love mentoring. In fact, they mentor me more than I mentor them on various things. Are these, young girls out of, MBA institutes and into their first or second jobs, figuring out whether they should go marry, they should work, they should study, they should, all of those thoughts. Should they have a baby, and who should they marry? Someone their parents want them to marry. And, that's a very, very interesting phase. And of course, they teach me a lot of other stuff. They teach me which apps to download, what's in, how to play, on the PlayStation and things like that. So they do that to me as well. Or what to wear, what is cool, what is not cool, So it's. I think that's a fun bunch of people I love to mentor. Probably because I was 17-year-old. So, I have a niece who's 24. So kind of resonate with this bunch of people.
And I'm glad you're doing that, because the numbers keep slipping every year. And now the latest numbers are 23 point something percent of women in the formal labor force, which is absolutely pathetic. So a lot needs to be done at every level. So I'm really glad you're doing that. So as head of innovation, tell us a little bit about your role over there and what kind of innovation are you looking at?
So, it's a fun role. I have always been in business roles most of my life. In the last, 22 years, I think I started working right out of college in 97. I think I've always had business roles and few marketing roles and few profit center roles. And this, came as a great opportunity. I'm so glad it was offered to me. And it's a super fun role. It's about, it's a very fuzzy role, if I may say so. It's all about the consumer. So it could be anything from in a retail store, in a supermarket, in a retail store. What are the new categories that can come in? Can we get in something like a atta chakki? Do you think the consumer would enjoy taking a few steps back and not buying a ground atta, ready-made atta, and would want to, kind of get their atta, ground there in front of them? Would they like it? We're all trying to go back to basics, right? Would they like to have some kind of samosas inside a supermarket, which is usually there in West? All these are very common in West. Can we clean up a pani puri and bring it into a supermarket? What are these innate wishes of the consumer, which we could bring into the modern trade format? So that's one part of the innovation. It could be anything from how do we communicate to our consumers, to any kind of digital transformation that we would like to do. So it's end to end. I mean, it's a very, very open playing field where we could do anything that is possible. So as a culture, it's a very, very open culture where they just let you do a lot of pilots. So that's what I do.
So the fuzzy place is really where even I love being, because it's a clean slate anyway, and then it's totally up to you to make it your own. But we have two questions from Venkatesh. He says, being an innovation team, disruptive AI, how do you see employees needing to adapt to it, and how does education need to change for future needs?
Okay, being in the innovation team, the disruptive AI, how do you see employees need to adapt to it, and how education needs to change for future needs? So
there are two parts to it. One is the AI and innovation, and I'm currently doing two separate courses on AI. Just because it's so fascinating. But I think one is that how do you use it in your innovation, and then do we actually have the skills? Because technology and all these other things, like AI, machine learning, everything is, rapidly advancing, whilst all of us are stuck in this old school, education format that doesn't allow us to think. And even if you're trained in AI, you may not have that intersectionality of thought, to think of all the possibilities of it and bring in the diversity of perspective that is needed.
So, I have a very disruptive thought here, So we talk about AI, machine learning in, all the time, across every industry is talking about it. I think we have to break it down to simple deliverables for our teams and for our consumers. They are not interested in what is happening in the back end. How are we using AI? All they need to understand is, as an organization, have we been able to pick up an insight from the consumer? Have I been able to pick up that the consumer needs X or Y or Z and make it available without throwing, big words like AI or disruption to them? So they just need to know that if there's a next level of, say someone wants hydroponics, instead of, can we just make it available to them in some form or the other without, so how do I understand the consumer needs X, Y, or Z? That's through data. That's at the back end. So all of that needs to happen in the back end. Even our employees or our teams in the front end don't really need to know too much about it. They just need to know the functionalities, what it could do to the consumer. Because if you're trying to confuse every frontline employee with too much of information, too much of data, they will just get confused. So I think this is what is happening right now. We have to simplify this. AI and machine learning and all of that has to happen at the back end. It has to be delivered to the front end, to the teams, to the consumers in the most palatable, way for them. And they just need to understand, what does it do for you? They don't need to understand the how and the why and the what. That's
actually, I find it fascinating how people love getting caught up in this, the terminologies of AI and machine learning. I come from the aviation sector, and I was in strategy for, almost half of it in revenue management and network planning. And we use these systems then, and I'm talking about like 15 years ago,
These are times of com and decom and, like, yeah.
We were always, we taught the system to think about the most optimum way of, getting our resources utilized, and whether it was the planes or whether it was the seats that were sold, etc. And that was AI in a way. But people are so excited now, and if you don't have AI in that sentence, they don't think that the work you're doing is even important. But you're right.
Yeah, true. So, that's the point. So I used to work for another organization called Future Group, and we were doing some very interesting work around data, right? We had something called the Costco model of membership, so there's this whole membership model that we were working on, and there was a lot of data which was generated. We would know what is happening and all of that. But the disconnect was that, what will you do with all that data unless you're able to communicate with the consumer? And who's communicating with the consumer? Your team member in front who's on the shop floor, right? So the team member in front has to communicate this to the consumer. If it's an offline retail, if it's an online retail, you do it different stuff. You use your, texting and messaging and communicating or following or do all of that. But in the frontline space, you just have to figure out the connect between the frontline individual and whatever is happening in the back end. So it can't all be, AI and disruption. It has to be, how do you build that connect between the consumer and your frontline team is more critical. I think we'll have to step back a few steps and figure out what is required. Does your consumer really need you to know every innate detail? No, not really. The consumer is happy if you know the consumer's name, or you know that the consumer's family member was not well a month ago. That's it. Find ways to do that. Can we do simple things like that which make the consumer feel good, right? So that's my take on using technology with your consumers. It has to be consumer centric.
It has to be consumer centric, and it's more art than science as well, because you take a scenario like COVID and all your data has gone haywire. So you have to be able.
So much data. What do you really do with so much data? Why do you need to know consumers wearing a red shirt or a pink shirt? Seriously, what will you do with it? So you don't need to. And even if you know the consumer is wearing a red shirt, how do you ensure that your frontline team member, when the person comes next to the store, tells you that, I know red is your favorite color? How do you bridge that gap?
So we have one more question from him. Yeah. How do you see consumer power changing? And I think we touched upon this. Given that the job profile changes in the future due to more investment in disruptive technology, but I would say, how do you see consumer power changing? I think that's more important.
The consumer has this crazy choice today. We've seen, what demonetization did to digital payments. I think this lockdown has done to e-commerce, right? Everyone is using e-commerce today. Including my parents, who would never want to buy anything online, right? So everyone is buying everything online today. So the consumer has this crazy choice ahead of him or her. I think what will be critical is to be able to understand what the consumer needs and go very deep. understand the insights. Don't be superficial. Don't just look at some blank data. Look at data which has some meaning. And I'm sure there are several ways of doing that. And just figure out what is super important. What is it that the consumer will feel really great about? And just focus on that. I think how do you connect with the consumer, whether on the online platform or the offline platform, is something I feel is going to be super critical. And how do you do that? A lot of it is going to be going back to the basics. How much ever your consumer loves the burgers and the shakes and all of that, aren't we all craving for a samosa in the lockdown? Aren't we all craving for our favorite vada pav? So I think the consumer is way simpler than we think the consumer is, right? So understand the nuances of the consumer, bring in technology, don't forget the connect. I think the moment we throw in too many words and forget the connect with the consumer, I think we are going totally a different way. I think we are, not even going where the consumer wants us to go. We'll never connect with the consumer. So I think that's going to be disruptive. Trying to understand the consumer way deeper than we're doing today.
So Jasjeet Sethi says, great answers to the AI ML piece. I agree. I think you were on point.
Having been in retail for like about 5.5 years now, and I'm not a true retailer because I've worked in various industries across, I've seen so much data. We've seen crazy amount of data, right? And at times we just go overboard trying to crunch data, but what are we doing with that data? I think let's figure out, let's take a few steps back. Let's it's not about just collecting data. It's about, what do you do with that data? How do you connect to whoever your customer is, whether it's a B2B business or a B2C business? Figure out. What I have noticed is, why are these Kirana stores way more connected to the consumer than we are? Just think about it. There is the Kirana store owner who's an entrepreneur. Number one, he or she has been there for the last 8 or 10 years. He knows every family member. He knows a Sharma ji. He knows everybody, a Gupta ji or whatever. He knows who's gotten married in their homes. He knows they haven't been buying a particular rice, right? Is there a way of getting that intelligence into your modern trade, into your online space? Can we do that? If we're able to do that, that's true disruption. I think the rest of it is not disruption. Running after someone, who's wanting to buy an X and running after a Y, online and following him everywhere. I don't think that's disruption. And that's my absolute personal view.
I noticed that you had a short entrepreneurial stint yourself. Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh yes. So I'm a Bengali, and we are good at working for others. We are not great at being entrepreneurs or taking any kind of risks. So there was this period, while I was still working for Future Group, and again, Future Group has this very entrepreneurial flair to how they operate, and I had this bug which was biting me, and I think we just wanted to do something different, and kind of stepped back, and I said, let's give it a shot. My husband and a few of his friends have been harboring the idea of being entrepreneurs, but they couldn't because they had their day jobs to do, and someone had to earn the bread, right? So amongst our group, we decided that since we were a double income family, I'll take a tiny sabbatical and maybe launch a brand. And I did that. I launched a brand. I don't want to name it here, because we are live, and there's certain reasons why I wouldn't want to name it right now. But it was a very, very interesting journey, and I launched it, and So it was right from building the label to deciding on the go to market strategy to everything, doing some of the first few the videos and shots and all that, and it was very, very exciting. And then I realized I'm a 0 to 1 person. I'm not someone who would really enjoy going and now running it. I'd love to do that for several brands. I wouldn't want to do it for one brand. And my dream was to do something else as an entrepreneur. Having said that, we doing that brand is doing extremely well. It is run by professionals today. We hired professionals. It was fun trying to get some professionals on board because they needed to believe in you. So some of my friends who worked with me in the past, we had some of them come and join us on board, and it's doing very well today. Again, I don't want to name the brand. I'll tell you I'll talk about the brand offline with you, but it's doing very well. And
So what are the
then
lessons you learned from that experience?
I think humility. When you are with an organization, so everybody respects your chair, not you. Right? People will respect you only if you've added value to their lives or you have, made a difference to their lives. Right? So I figured out that there are real people who like you, and there are people who like you because of what you do. Right? And it also, resonates with you. I mean, if there are people who like you just because what you do, then you've not kind of connected with them at a deeper level. So it comes back to you, right? So I think so that was one. The second one is that I think it's absolutely not easy to be an entrepreneur. Of course, it is tough to work and build businesses and all of that. But I think the entire onus is on you. When you have to pay salaries, you just start feeling responsible for everyone else other than just yourself, and you start working for others than for yourself. Again, the first few people you hire, you're not hiring them, from a brand you're so used to hiring. You're so proud to say, I work for so and so and I do this. And, would you like to join my team? Here you are. And, like the humble person going and saying, what, I'm doing a startup and I can't pay you too much. And I'd just like you to believe that, this is what we're doing. So I think you become way more real. You become way more humble. You just have to get all your guards down. You just have to be prepared for it. And I think it made me, and I'm so glad that brand is doing so well still. And the fact that I decided to get back to the same organization I was working for, and then, in a different role, and I could add so much more value to the next role because I had been an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur is a very different skill than having worked. So I think I'm just glad I did that. I'll do that again sometime, but maybe a more social entrepreneurship than commercial entrepreneurship. I love working for others.
Absolutely. I know it was a really hard transition for me because in a corporate, when you're heading a department, so many things are done for you. And then you're right from the, the peon to the finance to the legal to the
You
CEO.
do everything. You have to do everything yourself.
So, I can chat with you forever, but I think we've almost run out of time. So my last question to you is, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
So I think, which I keep giving my 17-year-old now, one would be that don't take yourself too seriously. Let yourself be, do things which you absolutely love with all your heart. Accept who you are. I would ask my 16-year-old self to go do a Gallup score on myself or do a Myers-Briggs and understand my personality as a 16-year-old. And, be comfortable with who I am. Very, very tough at that age, because it's even difficult to understand, and accept who you are at my age. But if, one is able to do that, I think all of these things should become mandatory in school. How do you learn to live life? Look at a situation today. The best of the best, the ones who went to the best of the universities, to the Ivy Leagues, some of them are grappling with the situation, and some of them are doing so well. I mean, they've just been able to handle ambiguity with so much humility and so much openness. So I would say just keep an open mind. Don't take yourself too seriously. Whatever you would like to do, give your best. And most importantly, very, very cliched, but I completely believe it. Don't compete with others. Compete with yourself. Just be a better version of yourself. That's it. Because if you want to compete with others, there is no end to it. There's absolutely no end to it. I think this is what I would advise if I were 16 again. Yeah.
Thank you, Soma. It was really fun chatting with you. Those were all great insights, and I hope I can see from the comments that everybody's loving it. And
thank you so much.
I have a lot of friends who catch it later because they're all in the East Coast, West Coast. So right. I know they send me messages later. You bring the most amazing people to your shows, but I am so lucky to have all of you as part of my network so that I can invite you and hear your story and chat with you over a cup of tea. So thank you once again for sharing your Sunday evening with me.
Thank you so much, Elsa. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching, everyone who's watching. Thanks a ton.